So I have a plan, Mike. I have a plan. This is, I've noticed there's a lot of car accidents going on in the country, Mike. A lot of car accidents that happen. Even we had the airbag problem with the Takata airbag company.
Yes.
And that was in Toyotas, right? Foreign cars, I believe. It was in a bunch of cars, actually.
Toyotas.
Most of them
Fords,
in foreign cars. So here is my plan. I think we need to ban all foreign cars from entering the country until we figure out what the hell is going on.
Okay.
Good?
We need a...
all foreign cars.
I think we need to build a huge auto wall.
Yes.
From all the foreign cars. And also, I think if we do allow foreign cars in the country, they have to carry a special license plate.
Uh-huh.
And we'll ask them.
Now, it's only cars, though, not trucks or SUVs or semis. Just cars.
Yeah.
So there we go. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com and streaming live on the Beyond Reason Radio app, which you can download at the App Store or the Google Play Store. So if you're listening to the podcast and not listening live, we do this show every Monday and Friday at 8 p.m. live on my website, live on the Beyond Reason Radio app. And, of course, you can check out the podcast if you miss it live anywhere, including iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio app, any SoundCloud, all those places. And I thank you all for joining me. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason, the voice of truth, the voice of the millennial generation, or the Yaffee generation. And who you heard me talking to, that is Mr. Michael Formisano. He is...
Hey, that's me.
Yes, that's you. Good. Now, what are we doing?
I'm not driving a foreign car.
We're doing a radio. I don't know. I thought we were just pointing out obvious things randomly. No, Mike, thank you for joining me. He is the fabulous executive producer of Beyond Reason Radio. I said fabulous.
Yes, you did.
Why'd you give me that look?
It's not normally how people
Why not?
describe me.
Why? What does it mean then?
I don't know. It's just an adjective that
it's been
I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, whatever. I know what you mean.
But I appreciate the
against my
compliment.
religion. Anyways,
that's not Muslim, is it? I have to ask you.
You're gonna get me out. You're gonna kick me out of the country? Oh no! Speaking of Mr. Donald Trump, today started out as a good day, Mike. I was in a pretty good mood today, Mike. You know why? Because there was a Fox News poll out that says that Ted Cruz is jumping ahead of Donald Trump in Iowa. So Donald Trump in Iowa is in second place, I believe. Let me see if I can get that poll out. It's a Fox News poll, and I was in such a good mood because it shows that maybe Donald Trump isn't the inevitable nominee. Maybe Ted Cruz actually has a chance. But now I'm sad because Politico pointed out today there's a new poll out, Mammoth University poll, that says that Trump is up to 41% in the Republican primary.
41.
Now, when the fine print, when you read it, that includes independents that lean Republican. I think that's interesting that they added that. That's definitely where he gets some of it. By the way, in the Fox News poll, Cruz gets 28% of the support in Iowa, and Trump gets 26%. So Cruz is surpassed Trump in Iowa. But according to that other poll, this is nationally, Trump is at a new height of 41%. And that's from the Mammoth University poll. And I was in a good mood, Mike. I can
happy. Totally understand that.
And now he's leading. Now, what's kind of made me in a better mood a little bit is I'm finally seeing some other conservatives out there. I think they listen to the show. I always say that because I'll say something, and then like a couple days later, they will say what I said. And we're going to get to that. But I'm seeing some people finally see the light on Donald Trump in terms of him not being a real conservative. But first, what started a lot of this debate, what started a lot of people seeing the light on Donald Trump was a comment by him when he was asked about Ted Cruz leading him in the poll in Iowa. And I have a sound cut here. It's Trump on Cruz. And he was asked about Ted Cruz. And this is what Trump had to say. If you can play that for me, Mike.
Okay, look, I don't think he's qualified to be president.
Why not?
Because I don't think he has the right temperament. I don't think he's got the right judgment.
What's wrong with this temperament?
Well, you look at the way he's dealt with the Senate, where he goes in there like a, frankly, like a little bit of a maniac. You're never going to get things done that way. Look, I built a phenomenal business. I'm worth many, many billions of dollars. I have some of the greatest assets anywhere in the world. You can't walk into the Senate and scream and call people liars and not be able to cajole and get along with people. He'll never get anything done, and that's the problem with Ted.
So let me get this straight. Donald Trump, Mr. Anti-Establishment, Mr. Art of the Deal, Mr. I'm going to do what's right for the American people and make America great again, says Ted Cruz is kind of a maniac because he's standing up against the establishment.
I just don't understand that.
So this is why people support Trump. All the time when I ask people why they like Trump, because he's going to do what it takes. He'll stand up to him. He's not the same old as we've heard before. And you have Ted Cruz, who's a real conservative, who really has stood up in the Senate, and Trump calls him a maniac. The reason I point this out is a lot of people that I talk to that like Trump, they want Cruz to be the vice presidential pick because Cruz is liked among a lot of conservatives. What do you think about that now? A lot of you like Cruz. A lot of you like what Cruz has done to the Senate. This points out that Trump, if you're a Trump supporter, he could very well eventually stab you in the back. That's who he is. Some people say, well, that's just deal making. You can't trust a word he says now. He was with Cruz on a bunch of things. A lot of people say, Trump Cruz, that should be the ticket. And now he's stabbing Cruz in the back, saying things that why you all like Trump. He's calling Cruz a maniac for standing up against the establishment, doesn't have the right temperament, won't get things done. But Trump is doing the same thing, but times 50. It's like Trump was talking about himself. So you have a real conservative being attacked by Trump. Who's more establishment? Who sounds more establishment now? Ted Cruz or Donald Trump? Hate to say I told you so. Hate to say I told you so. By the way,
I don't hate that you say I told you so. I think it's good that you can say I told you so.
I've been warning on this for a long time, that Trump says stuff like this. And finally, I'm starting to see other conservatives out there see the light, see the beyond, jumping on the beyond reason train to the truth, I think.
Choo-choo.
Yeah, exactly. That was the week our train apparently... We run on electric power, that's why.
Yeah.
So our choo-choo is manufactured. So there you go.
It's pre-recorded choo-choo.
But the reason I point this out is because I saw this from Rush Limbaugh, who a lot of you Trump supporters also like Rush. Rush hasn't really been too critical of Trump. But this is what Rush says, and there's going to be a reason why I point this out. Usually I don't point out what other hosts say, but there's a big reason why I'm pointing this out today, because he's the most listened to voice out there. Rush said, I don't know what kind of damage, if any, this is going to do to Trump, because frankly, folks, if you look at Trump's support base, the majority of it is not conservative. If you look at it, this is what the Republican Party says they want. Trump is not claiming himself as a conservative. But the point that I really want to make that Rush makes is Rush made the point. He says the attacks raised red flags and the attack on Cruz are no different than what the Democrat Party would say. That Trump sounds a lot like a Democrat when he's attacking Cruz there. When he does these attacks, he attacked Ben Carson similarly not too long ago. When he does these attacks against conservatives, he sounds a lot like a Democrat. Why am I pointing this out? Well, because I pointed this out weeks ago. And I have the audio here from October, from early October. Trump was causing some controversy because he basically said George W. Bush is somewhat responsible for 9/11. You know, he was president while 9/11 happened. He didn't keep us safe, and there was supposed to be an attack on Jeb Bush. And this is what I said about Trump. This is a couple months ago, the beginning of October. This is what I said. But this was something that Keith Olbermann used to attack George W. Bush on all the time. And this is something Democrats used to attack George W. Bush on all the time. And libs and leftists and statists and communists, they would love to attack George W. Bush on this all the time. Why is a Republican nominee doing this? Republican, he's not the nominee yet. Hopefully he won't be, but why is the Republican candidate doing this? Why? I hear Donald Trump do this stuff all the time, where I hear him say things, and I'm like, that's what the Democrats say. Why are we so happy and thrilled of Donald Trump when he says things and repeats things that I hear often from Democrats, from leftists? Why do we keep doing this? Wow. Those are Rush is saying the exact words that I said months ago in October. I'm starting to think maybe he listens to this show. Maybe a lot of people are listening to this show. My point is, for one, you should listen to me because I'm going to have the truth first. But I'm glad people are finally starting to see the light. It's just to show I've been warning you on this. And now Rush is saying exactly the same thing. Now, another thing Rush said was he's essentially put on his Senator John McCain hat here. This is Rush talking about Trump. I'm Donald McCain, and I'm the guy that can cross the aisle and work with the other side. Ted Cruz can't. Rush says he was surprised by that. For somebody running for the Republican nomination who has set himself up as anti-establishment, to join the establishment in that kind of criticism of Cruz, he says, I don't get it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, that's interesting. He says he doesn't get it. And he says Donald Trump was putting on his John McCain hat, was acting like John McCain. This is what Rush said today. Well, that's funny because I said that.
Yeah, that is kind of funny, huh?
I said that on Friday. And yes.
If only we had audio of you saying
but
this
we
before.
do, Mike.
Oh, we do.
You play that for me, Mike. Which is pretty amazing. Like I said one thing earlier this week. I said, well, it's like 2008 all over again. In 2008, no one thought John McCain was going to be the Republican nominee. He ended up being the nominee. He ended up losing. Think it's going to happen again. Trump, nobody thought at first he was going to be the nominee. He might end up being the nominee, and then we will lose. And I had a whole bunch of people say, oh, Trump is nothing like McCain. Well, that wasn't the point I was making. The point is they're both losers, I think. And I think they're actually a lot more similar than you might think. For one, everyone wanted McCain because McCain was the maverick. He was the maverick of Congress. He was willing to get all the independents. And that's what they think of Trump. It's like Rush stole the words right out of my mouth. I said this last week that it's a lot like what I saw John McCain and Romney. For one, that they came out of nowhere and they both lost. 2, that they're going to be willing to work with the other and get all the independents. I hear this all the time. We're going to get all the independents. And I was chided on social media for this. People thought that doesn't make any sense. The comparison doesn't make any sense. And yet one of your favorite hosts, the most listened to host out there, is saying it now. Everyone's agreeing with it now. But I said it last week. It is beyond reason. And you should listen to me. And why am I pointing this out? Because I'm worried about the future, because all this stuff I'm warning about, if Trump wins the nomination, he'll lose the election. And if he does win the election, we can't trust a word he said. You're not going to be happy because he's not going to do everything he said he's going to do. He's a demagogue like Obama. Maybe now you will listen to me. You are listening to Beyond Reason Radio here at BeyondReasonRadio.com and the Beyond Reason Radio app.
It would be beyond reason not to listen to Yaffee on your TuneIn Radio app. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
Orlando's newest dining sensation, Doc's Streetside Grill, specializes in amazing flavors at prices you'll love. With special events and entertainment ranging from trivia to live bands to poker every evening. There's something for everyone. Doc's has amazing flavors that are always fresh. You know the motto, made today, bought yesterday. Doc's is located across from Orlando Regional Medical Center on South Orange Avenue. Check out DocStreetSideGrill.com for more info. Doc's is your prescription for good times. See you there.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Hey, this is Mike Yaffee from Buttheadinger Live and Beyond Reason Radio, and I have a question for you. Are you planning on taking any long road trips? Well, I have the perfect tool for you to make that trip go by a little bit faster. What you want to do is download the iHeartRadio app. With the iHeartRadio app, you can find your favorite music stations or create your own custom station. Don't forget to look up your favorite talk show hosts. You can find that on there as well. Make sure to download the app today at iHeartRadio.com.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
For the people in our military, it's a time of sacrifice and duty. That's why all 4 military aid societies have joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. With so many serving overseas, the need is greater than ever. You can learn more and donate at www.afrtrust.org. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes. Now, back to Beyond Reason Radio.
Yes, welcome back. I am your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. I am your host, Michael Yaffee. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Just type at Beyond Reason and the letter R. Beyond Reason R on Twitter. I'm tweeting all the time. Tweeting a bunch of stuff today. And Mike, I have a plan. I have a plan to save the country and make us safe again.
Okay.
I'm ready. I noticed that there has been a really big increase in texting while driving accidents. Have you noticed that?
This is true.
Yes. I've also noticed that most of our cell phones come from overseas. You know, Samsung, LG, those are Korean, Sony's, Japanese, and so forth. So I'm suggesting that we ban all cell phones from foreign countries until we figure out what the hell is going on. How does that?
Okay.
So, there we go. Okay.
And what's your plan for executing?
What's my plan for executing?
You sound just like Donald Trump.
Well, I'll just ask them. Do you have a cell phone?
Oh, like, when it comes into the country?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you have a cell phone?
That
and
sounds
if they say yes, I'll say, you can't come into the country.
That sounds honest.
If it's a foreign-made cell phone, now if it's an Apple, it's fine. But if it's a foreign-made cell phone, because we have to discriminate against foreign.
But wait.
Yeah. Yes.
Apple parts are from China. They're foreign.
That's true. That's true. But it's still American made. Now, I know a lot of the texting while driving deaths, I'm sure, happened with iPhones. Just like a lot of terrorist attack happened with people. The last terrorist attack happened with an American citizen. But it's the foreign ones we have to worry about. And I want to ban all foreign cell phones from coming into this. Actually, I don't want to do that. Not all of them. Just the ones from South Korea. Just one specific country. Because Samsung is the biggest cell phone maker out there. And I think we should just ban them from that one country. So if you're South Korea, if you have a South Korean phone, we'll ban that. All the other ones can come in. How about that?
That's a perfect plan.
There we go. There we go.
That'll work.
There we go.
That will
Okay.
totally work.
I'm glad you like that plan, Mr. Mike. All right, I want to shift gears here. I think I've done enough I told you so on Donald Trump, because there's something else that's causing a lot of controversy, and I think we need to set the record straight on it. And that is with Justice Scalia. Antonin Scalia in the Supreme Court. He made some comments during one of the cases this week over, actually it was last week, but it was over affirmative action. There is a lawsuit going on over that. And, well, let's just play. I have the comments here from Antonin Scalia on what he said, because it's on affirmative action, and he made a point here that a lot of people are saying is just blatantly racist. So let's see what he said.
There are those who contend that it does not benefit African Americans to get them into the University of Texas, where they do not do well, as opposed to having them go to a less advanced school, a slower track school, where they do well. One of the briefs pointed out that most of the black scientists in this country don't come from schools like the University of Texas. So they come from lesser schools where they do not feel that they're being pushed ahead in classes that are too fast for them.
Now, a lot of people are saying that is racist. They're saying what his main point is that maybe blacks, now he probably could have phrased this a little better, because he didn't mean all blacks, but he said some blacks would do better if they did not go to these top schools, but if they went to lower schools that are more on their level. Now, what people are saying is, well, he's saying that blacks cannot do as well in those high schools because they're black. Now, he never said it's because they're black, but that's what the interpretation is. But I wanted to point this out because I've read about this, and it's actually interesting when I look deep into that. There's actually a whole book on this called Mismatch. I've read. You can check it out. But what Scalia is talking about now, first, Scalia wasn't even necessarily giving his own opinion. That's one misconception with this. He was actually pointing out a brief that was handed to him from the University of Texas. And then the Civil Rights Commission also mentioned it, but they said it wasn't true. They argued that it wasn't right. But this was something that they presented as a possibility. And Scalia read the brief, and that is where he's getting these comments. So it's not like he just pulled this out of thin air. He was making an opposite side point to the court to try to get the full story. So that's first misconception here. The second thing he's talking about, a lot of people don't know this, but it's called mismatch theory. And what that is talking about is, Mike, you know what affirmative action is, right? Tell the people what affirmative action is. Affirmative action is what basically you need. The school has to have a certain percentage of blacks. The school has to have a certain percentage of. Well, go ahead. What is affirmative action for the people who might know?
Exactly what you just said. My apologies. I was trying to fix something on our system.
That's all right. I didn't mean to throw it off.
Producer stuff,
Yeah, I guess I should just let you do your job. Anyways, affirmative action basically, okay, this school has to admit a certain percentage of blacks to get into the school. Okay, because they want it to be diverse and all that stuff. Well, okay, fine. But what happens is instead of basing it blanketly on qualification, so let's say, for instance, and you all know this, but I'm just going to go over it for the sake of it. Let's say, for instance, there's 100 people that apply, and the top 100 scores are from whites. It just happens to be that way that year. The top 100 test scores and everything are white. Well, they can't, because they have to have so many blacks, some of those whites will not get in because they have to get a certain number of blacks to get in. Even if those scores of the black students are less than the scores of the white students who couldn't get in, it doesn't matter. Now, this was obviously implemented because there was a time in this country where some universities would not accept you just because of your skin color. Now, a lot of that's gone away. But what mismatch theory is what's happening is because of the way this is all set up. This is not, now, remember, I'm not talking about all blacks. Blacks who are qualified, who do make that top 100 scores, test scores or whatever, they'll get in. But what's happening is they're taking some blacks who are not as qualified to get in to the school, but they just need that percentage of blacks to get in, so they accept them anyways. Okay. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's good. It gives those blacks extra opportunity. Well, that's what you would think, but that's not what the case is. Research has shown that what happens is a lot of blacks who get accepted only on the basis of affirmative action. I'm not talking about test scores. Just on the basis of affirmative action, the research is showing that they end up dropping out because they were underqualified and not prepared enough to go to that school. So what happens is that black student who was underqualified gets into that school, is not prepared, is overwhelmed, ends up dropping out, and ends up not getting that college education at all. And it ends up hurting the black community, it ends up hurting him in the long run. Because instead, when he could have went to a school that he was more qualified to get into, and he could have prospered, he could have done well at that school, could have got a college degree. With that degree, he could get a better job and all that stuff. Instead, he is accepted to a much tougher school, is unprepared for it, ends up dropping out, and loses that chance at college because he dropped out. Where he could have went to a less tougher school, did very well in that school, and succeeded much more in life. Now, remember, I'm saying if the black student is on the top 100 or whatever and has the test scores to get in that school, obviously he should be able to get in that school. But what the argument is becoming is what some colleges are accepting blacks not based on their qualifications, but based on just their race. And by doing that, it not only prevents that white student from getting in who might be more qualified, but it could hurt that black student who is not qualified because he can't handle it and is dropped out. Now, immediately you say something like this, like Scalia pointed out, and it's considered racist because automatically people are going to say this about me. I'm talking about all blacks is what they're going to say. No, I'm not talking about all blacks. Obviously, there is and I say this over and over again on the show. There's such a little difference genetically between blacks and whites. And that only difference is the skin color, the pigmentation. We're all 99.9% the same. There's no evidence that blacks are dumber than whites genetically or anything. They're not. So obviously, if a black student is qualified and able to go to that university, is more qualified than the white student, then he should be able to go. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is by getting this affirmative action in place, not only does it hurt the white kid who's more qualified, it could hurt the black kid who's unqualified, but it also could hurt maybe a black student who is more qualified to get in some of these schools because he has more competition. and some are just put in because of their race and not qualifications. There's a whole bunch of things, and that is what Scalia was pointing out. It's called mismatch theory. And the whole point of me pointing this out is, what is the goal of education? Is the goal the student? To get the student in who's qualified, to get the student in the right school so he can learn, study, get the degree, and prosper. But unfortunately, the goal isn't that anymore with a lot of things. The goal is, quote unquote, diversity, for the sake of diversity. And in the end, you could end up putting a black student in who's not prepared for it. Not saying all black students aren't. I'm just saying by doing this, you could put some black students in who are not prepared for it. They could do worse. They could drop out because they weren't prepared. Then, of course, they're not as educated. They don't have as good of a job. Then they have kids, and their kids don't have as much opportunity. They become not as prepared. Then they can't get into the school. See, it also goes into the generations here. So if the goal is to help the black community out of poverty, maybe we should look at things a little bit different on how this works. I'm going to talk about this more because this is an important subject, and it's such a hard subject to broach because it's always about racism. No matter how much sense I'm making right now, there are some people out there who are going to say I'm just racist. I think blacks are not as qualified. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just looking at the research and the stats. And we're going to talk about this more. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio here, beyondreasonradio.com, and streaming live at the Beyond Reason Radio app.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com.
Orlando's newest dining sensation, Doc's Streetside Grill, specializes in amazing flavors at prices you'll love. With special events and entertainment ranging from trivia to live bands to poker every evening. There's something for everyone. Doc's has amazing flavors that are always fresh. You know the motto, made today, bought yesterday. Doc's is located across from Orlando Regional Medical Center on South Orange Avenue. Check out DocStreetSideGrill.com for more info. Doc's is your prescription for good times. See you there.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Hey, this is Mike Yaffee from Bud Hedinger Live and Beyond Reason Radio, and I have a question for you. Are you planning on taking any long road trips? Well, I have the perfect tool for you to make that trip go by a little bit faster. What you want to do is download the iHeartRadio app. With the iHeartRadio app, you can find your favorite music stations or create your own custom station. Don't forget to look up your favorite talk show hosts. You can find that on there as well. Make sure to download the app today at iHeartRadio.com.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
For the people in our military, it's a time of sacrifice and duty. That's why all 4 military aid societies have joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. With so many serving overseas, the need is greater than ever. You can learn more and donate at www.afrtrust.org. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You're listening to Beyond Reason Radio on the Beyond Reason Radio app. And, of course, streaming live at beyondreasonradio.com. And remember, if you can't catch all of the show live, you can catch the podcast on iHeartRadio, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, Podbean, Double Twist, and the TuneIn Radio app. And I think there's a bunch of more, but
we're everywhere.
Pretty much. Spreaker, there's another one. Yeah, we are definitely everywhere. By the way, I have another plan, Mike, to make the country safer.
Okay.
So, I've decided, there have been dog attacks. There's a lot of dog bites and dog attacks this year. This year. It happens every year in this country. And I think the biggest one is pit bulls, but there's a lot of other dog attacks. And it's just, it's not safe out there.
It's not.
It's not safe. People die from these dog attacks. So here is my plan. I think we should ban all foreign dogs from entering the country until we figure out what the hell is going on. How about that? You feel safer?
I want to know why we haven't done this already.
Exactly, right? We need a ban. So if you get any dogs from overseas or anything, foreign dogs, could be your German Shepherds, I don't know any other dog breeds at the top of my head.
We can't trust these French poodles anymore now that we know that ISIS has made its way into France.
You are exactly right. So
no Chihuahuas.
Yeah, that foreign dogs, yeah. Any foreign dogs. In fact, maybe we should be more specific. Any foreign dogs who are purebreds. So if they're mixed breed, they're okay. But if they're a purebred foreign dog, we can't allow them in. At least, remember, it's temporarily until we figure out what the hell is going on.
No more anchor dogs.
No more anchor dogs.
No more anchor puppies.
Yeah, so there we go. We're not talking, I'm not even talking just immigration, the dogs immigrating to our country. I'm talking even those dogs that just want to visit. They cannot come in. Or if it's like a family's dog and they want to bring it over here to get treatment because the dog is sick. Sorry. If it's a foreign dog, look, we got to keep the country safe.
We'll give it a license.
Yeah, there we go. But we can't let them in. By the way, I was talking about that Supreme Court case with affirmative action and Antonin Scalia, and the case was brought up because Abigail Fisher's grades and test scores were not good enough for her, they say, to be admitted in the absence of preferences for black and Hispanic applicants. So she is suing the university because she did not get in, and it was the University of Texas. I wanted to point that out. And I pointed out Antonin Scalia's comments. And I'm sure a lot of people still think I'm racist. I don't even know why I bring these things up, Mike. But I found a story here. Makes the same point I do. And I don't know, maybe now this is, I don't know why I would even have to do this. His name's Thomas Sowell, noted economist, but he's black. So I guess he should be for affirmative action, according to all the people out there. But he actually agrees with me. Now, it doesn't matter that he's black, in my opinion, because I just care about what he thinks, not because of the fact he's black. But, I mean, nowadays, this is the stuff you have to point out. He points out in a piece here, talking about Scalia's comments, affirmative action is supposed to benefit black and other minority students, admitted, blah, blah, blah. Justice Scalia questioned whether that is actually happening. He says, despite much media spin, the issue is not whether blacks in general should be admitted to higher ranked or lower ranked institutions. Exactly what I said. It's not about blacks in general should be admitted. That isn't really an issue in this country anymore. If you're qualified and you're black, you get in. The issue is whether a given black student with given academic qualifications should be admitted to a college or university where he would not be admitted if he were white. That's the issue. Now, I've also said this before, and a lot of people don't want to point this out, but by admitting a black student, by basically what they have to do sometimes is lower the bar to get some black students in. Isn't that kind of racist on its own? When you think about it, the school's basically telling you, well, you're black, we have to lower the bar to get you in. So they're assuming that because you're black, they're going to have to lower the bar. Isn't that kind of racist?
Sounds racist to me.
It's kind of racist the other way around. Nobody ever looks at it from that side. But this is what Thomas Sowell says. Much research over the years has confirmed Justice Scalia's concern that admitting black students to institutions for which their academic preparation is not sufficient can be making them worse off instead of better off. He said he became aware of this problem 40 years ago, discovered that half the black students, when he was teaching at Cornell University, Thomas Sowell was teaching there, he discovered that half the black students were on some kind of academic probation. He says these students were not stupid or uneducatable, He says, on the contrary, the average black student at Cornell at the time scored at the 75th percentile. Their academic qualifications were good. But why were they in trouble? Because the average Cornell student in the liberal arts college at the time scored at the 99th percentile. The classes taught there, including mine, he says, moved at a speed geared to the verbal and mathematical level of the top 1% of American students. What he's saying is those blacks are qualified. Those blacks can get into decent schools. They could prosper. But what happens is a lot of them were not at the qualifications to get in. They were not prepared. And because of that, they became on academic probation. They ended up dropping out. This is not saying all blacks. If the point is to help the black community do better in the long run, we have to look at these facts and say what is best for the black community, just like we would say what is best for the white community. He says none of this was peculiar. He said, Mike, I'm supposed to be a radio host.
Peculiar.
And I can't say the word peculiar.
It's a weird word. I mean, it happens to the best of us. Especially when you say it more than once.
I've
and
ruined
you just
the
doubt
show.
yourself.
I know. I've ruined the show.
No.
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 I can continue.
Yeah, you can absolutely continue. Can't they continue? You can continue, right? Yeah, see? Everybody thinks you're going to do just fine.
I don't need your pity applause. I know what that is. Anyways,
Back to
black students who scored at the 90th percentile in math had serious problems trying to keep up at MIT, where other students scored somewhere within the top 99th percentile. So that student in the 90th percentile, instead of going to MIT, he could have went to another state university, done very well, got a very good degree, and got a very good job, and then he would have given his kids better opportunity. But we don't care about that. It's all about diversity. And not real diversity. Not diversity of thought, of course, but diversity based on skin color. Think about this. Who's the real racist? Maybe the school is by having to lower the bar. Now, some blacks will say, well, it's just institutional racism, and that's why they wouldn't be accepted. Are we really still there as a country? That these schools just don't want to accept blacks because they're black? No, the stats aren't showing that.
There's much more to it than that.
Exactly. And you would think a black student would want to be judged the same as a white student. Isn't that the dream? Isn't that the goal? But in terms of them, they're really not. They're having to get special favors. To me, that's racist. Now, this was brought up on Fox News, and there was someone on who, his name's Rick Grinnell. He has been a spokesman for several ambassadors, worked at the UN, spokesman for George Pataki, former New York governor. And he was asked about this. And I want to play some of his audio here because he actually made a great point that kind of goes beyond what I said. Not only is the problem here, the facts in terms of wanting to help the black community. We're not helping the goal, which is to help the black community and help students. It should be about students getting the education that they need. But he goes on and asks a very good question on this subject. And this is what he had to say.
I think competition amongst schools especially is going to benefit the kids. We need to have rigorous education, and having schools compete, therefore having certain students apply and get in and not get in, that's part of the American way. You learn a lot when you don't get into certain schools. You learn how to study harder. You learn how to be better. I think that we need to dial this back and figure out
right there real quick,
what
Mike.
is the goal. Because if the goal...
That's okay. Can you back up like 3 or 4 seconds? No. I know it's tough. Anyways, that first he's talking about competition, school choice, all that stuff is what would help kids in black communities do better. It would help the school system all around. It would help us all achieve better because competition is good for achievement. It encourages us. Like he said, we actually learn a lot from not getting accepted somewhere. It forces us to try harder. But when you have to lower the bar and you get accepted, you're not forced to do better.
I was able to back it up, by the way.
Okay, good. But he makes a very even more interesting point here that I want to play.
Back and figure out what is the goal, because if the goal is a diverse classroom, it's a very noble goal, but it's extremely time consuming, and right now we're only focused on race and gender. And let me tell you that diversity is much different than race and gender. If you put a whole bunch of minority kids who all think liberally and a whole bunch of women in a classroom who also are liberals, you do not have any diversity in that classroom. I can tell you the gay community struggles with the same thing. The leaders are constantly pushing one ideologically left idea, and anyone who doesn't think like that is considered to be, less than. And so that's not a real diverse population. I think we got to figure out what is the goal and then figure out the solution.
So, there's a ton of points I can make on that. It was very well said. But I thought what was really interesting is the question. What is the goal? What should be the goal of a university? What should be the goal of a classroom? Is diversity really the goal of a classroom, of a university? Is there a goal to be diverse just for the sake of being diverse? No, the goal is supposed to be education. The goal is supposed to be learning. The goal is supposed to be training for students who meet the qualifications for that type of training. That's supposed to be the goal of a university. But colleges have gotten so far away from that, where the goal is not even teaching, it's not even learning, it's not even education. It's stuff like diversity and promoting a liberal ideology, which he makes another point. What is if the goal is diversity, well, the only diversity they care about is race and gender. They don't care about diversity of thought because that doesn't exist. As long you can be a totally different gender and all think the same thing, is that true diversity? No. So I thought that was well said. And I think I've spent a lot of time on this because this is, to me, is a really important debate. Because I'm looking at facts here and I'm just thinking, this is not, we can get caught up in all these platitudes and all these name calling and racism and throw all this stuff out there. But I don't care about all that. I care about helping us as a country, helping our students achieve and learn and prosper, and the best way of getting them to do that. And if the best way is a little politically incorrect, I'm okay with that because I want them to achieve achievement, goal setting. And then that leads to innovation. That leads to a better economy. That's what I'm interested in. Truth, reality. So that's why I brought this up. And I think Scalia is being harshly treated, even though he was just pointing out someone else's opinion first off, and he was merely stating research that does exist. It's politically incorrect, but there's a lot of evidence to support it. You are listening to Beyond Reason. Another thing that is beyond reason is the whole climate change debate. Once again, they made a deal at the climate summit, but I have to play some comments from Ted Cruz on this, where he's on NPR and he just totally takes apart the interviewer. It's great. You have to listen to it. Beyond Reason Radio at beyondreasonradio.com. We'll be right back.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today.
Orlando's newest dining sensation, Doc's Streetside Grill, specializes in amazing flavors at prices you'll love. With special events and entertainment ranging from trivia to live bands to poker every evening, there's something for everyone. Doc's has amazing flavors that are always fresh. You know the motto, made today, bought yesterday. Doc's is located across from Orlando Regional Medical Center on South Orange Avenue. Check out DocStreetSideGrill.com for more info. Doc's is your prescription for good times. See you there.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Hey, this is Mike Yaffee from Bud Hedinger Live and Beyond Reason Radio, and I have a question for you. Are you planning on taking any long road trips? Well, I have the perfect tool for you to make that trip go by a little bit faster. What you want to do is download the iHeartRadio app. With the iHeartRadio app, you can find your favorite music stations or create your own custom station. Don't forget to look up your favorite talk show hosts. You can find that on there as well. Make sure to download the app today at iHeartRadio.com.
You can catch the latest Beyond Reason podcast on SoundCloud today. Download the app today and search Beyond Reason Radio.
For the people in our military, it's a time of sacrifice and duty. That's why all 4 military aid societies have joined together to form the Armed Forces Relief Trust to help military families cope with financial and medical emergencies at home. With so many serving overseas, the need is greater than ever. You can learn more and donate at www.afrtrust.org. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
Yes, you can hear me anytime on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, pretty much anywhere the podcast exists. And if there are ones I'm not on, I will find them and I will be on them. But the best way really to catch a show is just download the Beyond Reason Radio app. You can download it at the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee, joined by executive producer Michael Formisano. And Mike, I have a plan. I have a plan to make the country safer.
To make it safer?
Yes. I have
another
a plan. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, here we go. I've noticed that there's a lot of people that die because of alcohol, because of drinking.
Absolutely.
Alcohol-related deaths. You have drinking while driving deaths. That's a big one. You have alcohol poisoning. You have cirrhosis of the liver. All this stuff.
There's so many factors.
Domestic violence, suicide. Yeah. Alcohol. It's really bad. So I have an idea. We should ban all foreign drinks from entering the United States. Any foreign drinks that we import from overseas, we should ban it.
I think this is totally a reasonable plan.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the foreign drinks.
Who needs
we have
vodka?
We don't need... No. Yeah, we can't have that. We can't have Heineken. We can't have any imports,
No communist... what do they drink?
What are the communist drinks?
I can't think of the name of it.
I think a lot of them drink vodka,
Sake.
I think. Sake? That's not necessarily communist. But... yeah, look, it's just the foreign drinks. And it's only temporarily until we figure out what the hell is going on.
Until we figure it out, strictly Jack Daniels.
Yes.
Budweiser.
Budweiser is not a foreign drink.
Strictly, I'm saying that's all we can drink.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. Yeah, so well, you can have the drinks here. Yeah, that's fine. Drinks that are here are fine. I know some of those might cause the deaths. But no, we're talking about foreign drinks.
Blue activated Mountain Coors Light.
What? Say that again?
Cold activated Blue Mountain Coors Light.
Oh, the cold, with the little can that turns blue.
Only American.
Yeah, who wants anything else? Your can turns blue. The mountains on the can turn blue.
How else are you supposed to know when it's perfect temperature?
Exactly. I have no idea. So we're going to ban all foreign drinks from entering the country. I just want to make America safe again.
But what happens if people start throwing Jaeger over our borders?
I don't know. You want me to have?
We're going to have to come up with this special database.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And the drinks that are here in the country already, we'll come up with a database for them. Yeah. And if it gets too wild, we're just going to round up all the beer, even the American beer, and we're just going to, all the beer associate. Yeah, all the beer. In fact, I don't want to. I don't want to have a blanket. I don't want to have a blanket ban again. I don't want to have a blanket ban against all alcohol. How about we just make it specific to beer? I'm just going to ban beer. Any other alcohol can. I'm just discriminating against beer.
Germany.
Yes, that's my plan to make America safe again. Okay, we don't have a lot of time here, but I got to play this. But I can do as much time as I want because it's my show. I can go over if I want. Y'all going to be interested in what I say anyways.
You
right?
have the power.
I do. But So the climate change summit, they came up with some deal in Paris that's going to cost people a bunch of money. And I found this interview on NPR. It's Ted Cruz, and he's asked because he's been very skeptical of climate change. And he actually had a Senate hearing where he invited scientists who were skeptical of climate change. And he had an interview with NPR, and I'm just going to play some of it, and I'll stop in the middle, and we'll talk about it. But it's just great stuff, so I had to get it. Here we go.
What do you think about what is seen as a broad scientific consensus that there is man-caused climate change?
Well, I believe that public policy should follow the science and follow the data. I am the son of two mathematicians and computer programmers and scientists. In the debate over global warming, far too often politicians in Washington, and for that matter a number of scientists receiving large government grants, disregard the science and data and instead push political ideology. You and I are both old enough to remember 30, 40 years ago when, at the time, we were being told by liberal politicians and some scientists that the problem was global cooling.
There was a moment when some people said that.
That we were facing the threat of an incoming ice age, and their solution to this problem is that we needed massive government control of the economy, the energy sector, and every aspect of our lives. But then, as you noted, the data didn't back that up. So then many of those same liberal politicians and a number of those same scientists switched their theory to global warming.
This is a conspiracy, then, in your view?
No, this is liberal politicians who want government power over the economy.
Now, I've made a lot of these points, just so you know. You can keep pointing. I've just making it out. I've made a lot of these points. I think he is right on, but keep going.
And almost all the countries in the world have joined into this approach?
So let me ask you a question, Steve. Is there global warming, yes or no?
According to the scientists,
I'm asking
absolutely.
You.
Sure.
Okay, you are incorrect, actually. The scientific evidence doesn't support global warming. For the last 18 years, the satellite data, we have satellites that monitor the atmosphere. The satellites that actually measure the temperature showed no significant warming whatsoever.
I'll just note that NASA analyzes that same data differently.
But no, they don't. You can go and look at the data.
Stop right there. Can you hear the contempt, the condescension from the reporter? Oh, you're just an idiot. Blah, blah. He's making excellent points. He's right. The satellite data has shown that. But, I just thought that was funny. Oh, you're just an idiot because you're skeptical. He's not even saying he doesn't. He's just saying he's skeptical, as any good scientist should be. But continue on here, Mike.
By the way, this hearing, we have a number of scientists who are testifying about the data. But here's the key point. Climate change is the perfect pseudoscientific theory.
Exactly what I've been saying.
Politician who wants
forever.
Why? Because it is a theory that can never be disproven.
Do you question the science on other widely accepted issues? For example, evolution.
There is a fundamental difference, which is in the name of global warming. You have politicians trying to impose trillions of dollars.
I question the science sometimes in evolution. Not all of it, but some of it. Scientists question it.
Elite, global warming is very popular because it makes you feel good about caring for the world. But I'll tell you, you know who I'm concerned about? I'm concerned about the single mom waiting tables right now, who for 7 years of the Obama economy has been trapped in stagnation. Her wages have been stagnating. It's harder and harder to make ends meet. And what the Washington elites are trying to do is double her energy bill.
Do you question other science like evolution?
Any good scientist questions all science. If you show me a scientist that stops questioning science, I'll show you someone who isn't a scientist. And I'll tell you, Stephen, I'll tell you why this has shifted. Look in the world of global warming. What is the language they use? They call anyone who questions the science, who even points to the satellite data, they call you a, quote, denier. Denier is not the language of science. Denier is the language of religion. It is heretic. You are a blasphemer. It's treated as a theology, but it's about power and money. At the end of the day, it's not complicated.
Exactly.
This is liberal politicians who want government power.
Yep.
You know that your critics would say that it's about power and money on your side. Let's not go there for the moment. But I want to ask about this. I want to ask about facts.
Hold on a second. Who's power? But let's stop. I mean, if you're
energy industry, oil industry,
if you're going to toss an ad hominem.
Okay. He makes a good point here that I want to get to.
But you know their economic interests on all sides.
If you're going to toss an ad hominem, then let's actually respond, because there's not a moral equivalency. You say it is about power and money. I'm trying to keep power with the American people. I'm trying to keep power with the single mom waiting tables not to drive up her energy bills. I'm trying to keep power with the teenage immigrant like my dad was washing dishes. Now, how is that about power and money other than keeping Washington out of their lives and making it easier for people to achieve the American dream? That's who I'm fighting for.
Ted Cruz should have a radio
Ernest
show.
Moniz, the Energy
Just
Secretary,
saying.
pointed out on All Things Considered the other day that the
Yes,
cost
yes,
of
I'm
renewable
very
alternative energies has
smart
been
and
going
very
down
right on
drastically.
this.
The technology
Yes, you're an
is constantly
idiot.
advancing. And on a basic level, of course, pollution is inefficiency. If you can be more efficient, it actually saves people money. If you found out that climate change was cheaper to address than it seems to now, would you change your view of it?
Of course, there will be alternative energies. We will have innovation. And I promise you this, the alternative energy innovations are not going to come from Washington.
Stop right
They're
there.
not.
Mike. We'll stop right there. But I just want to point out, this is one thing that drives me so crazy. By saying you're skeptical of global warming, by saying you're skeptical of climate change, by saying you don't want all these carbon taxes, you don't want carbon trade, you don't want to do all these deals with foreign countries. Instead, when you just merely point that out, that to them means you're against all alternative energy. No, we're not against alternative energy. We just want it to happen in the free market. We want it to be ready. We don't want it forced upon us if it's not ready. And by the way, as I pointed out many times on this show, alternative energy is going to have an effect on the environment too, in ways we're not thinking of. But we're not against alternative energy. We're just against we're against giving the government more and more power that they don't need, and we're against them destroying the economy over a theory that's become more of a religion and has been used for political purposes. That's the point Ted Cruz is making, and he's right. Thank you all for listening today. As always, I end with this verse in Philippians chapter 4. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things, and the God of peace will be with you. And I will be with you again on Friday. Make sure if you missed any of the show, check out the podcast. And I'll check you guys out next time.
That nothing comes from indifference. I look inside of myself. Oh, well,